I had a look at the most common questions people ask Google about CMake, and some of them have poor answers. So rapid fire, here are answers to some of the most common questions. What is CMake and what is it used for? So CMake is a build system for C++. It's designed to help you write software that will run on a lot of different systems like Windows, Mac, Linux, and more.
Excuse me, it's not a build system, it's a meta build system.
Well, yes, that's true. It's true because that's how CMake works. You see, CMake works by generating build scripts for whatever compiler toolchains you're using. But let's not get too caught up in the details. Nobody uses CMake because it's a meta build system. People use it because it helps them take source code and build it into running software.
Excuse me.
Moving along. What is the use of CMake and C++? So I've already sort of answered that. You write scripts for CMake to take your C++ or C source code, compile it, and link it into runnable programs and libraries. That's it in a nutshell. It might sound quite simple, but believe me, things get complicated when you start needing to support multiple systems. Like Windows and Mac OS and Linux have different ways of doing things and different functionality here and there, and accounting for all the differences can be complex. Does CMake work only for C++? No. So it was designed for C++, but obviously you can use it for C as well because the C language, C++ is like a superset of C. It's an extension on top of C. But added to that, it has been used with Java, you can use it with Rust, and other languages. Now, while it's possible to do that, usually CMake is used in programs where C++ is the main programming language. Can I use CMake for Python? Yes, although it depends on what you mean. You see, Python's a scripting language and you normally don't compile it ahead of time. The Python virtual machine will do it for you automatically when needed. However, you are likely to see CMake used where you want Python and C++ code to work together. For example, you might want to call some library that's written in C++ from Python, in which case you would use something called pybind 11 to compile the C++ code into a Python module. What programming language is CMake? CMake isn't actually a programming language, it's a build system or a meta build system. It does have its own scripting language though. So you do need something to write a description of what source files to take, what configuration settings to do in order to build everything together. But CMake isn't intended to be a general purpose programming language like C++ is. Is CMake a scripting language? At risk of splitting hairs over semantics, CMake has a scripting language. It's not really a scripting language itself, it's a build system. Next question, what's the difference between C++ and CMake? You can probably answer that yourself if you've been watching this video so far. C++ is the general purpose programming language, and CMake is a build system to compile the C++ source code into a working program. Is CMake better than Visual Studio? That's impossible to answer because they're two totally different things for two different purposes. CMake, as I've said multiple times already, is a build system. Visual Studio is what's called an integrated development environment, or IDE. So that's got your code editor, the debugger, the compiler, and everything like that. In fact, you're very likely to use CMake and Visual Studio together because CMake can generate Visual Studio projects to build in Visual Studio, and Visual Studio these days comes with CMake integration. Last question, how can I create software using CMake? Interesting that you should ask that question because I happen to be working on a CMake tutorial right now. So in brief, you will write some CMake scripts, or at least one, which describes what source files need to be compiled with what settings, what libraries you want to link to in order to build your application, game, library, whatever it is. You run CMake on that build script, which will then generate the build script for your chosen compiler, and from there CMake can run the actual build and you end up with your working software. If that sounds complicated, I'll leave a link below to a previous tutorial beginner's tutorial that I've written, and of course to the upcoming CMake tutorial book or course. That's it for today. I'll see you next time.